Overthinking. We all do it, right? But have you ever caught yourself overthinking while you're actually overthinking? You know exactly what you're doing. You're replaying conversations, you're imagining outcomes that haven't even happened yet, and you can't seem to stop. So, in today's episode, we're talking about why that happens, what's actually going on in your brain, and how overthinking becomes a habit. And just so that you know, if you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, this is me, I want you to stay with us until the end. And we're going to tell you exactly what to do next if you're ready to stop circling in your mind and actually make a change around this. Welcome to The Brain Changers, a podcast about learning how to revolutionize the way you think and live by mastering your mind. We're your hosts, mother and daughter duo Rebecca and Yvonne King from Moonbeam Monday. Our goal is to empower you to live the life you choose by teaching you how to retrain your brain. Some people tell us it sounds like mind control, and it is, but not the way you might think. This is about you taking control of your own mind rather than letting your mind control you, so you can choose to live a life free from the expectations of others. No matter what you've experienced in the past, you can create positive change and transformation by learning how to master your mind. We know this because we've done it. Between us, we've survived cancer and stroke and eliminated debilitating anxiety and depression. We've turned our pain into purpose through the power of our mind, and we're now here to support and guide you to do the same. In this podcast, we share valuable insights about how your brain works, why you think, say, and do the things you do, how to begin the process of change, and why it's necessary. Because we know that when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. Hello, and welcome back to the first episode of the Brain Changers podcast for 2026. I am Rebecca King.
And I'm Yvonne King.
And it's great to be back with you, our audience, this year. We are kicking off 2026 with a new theme, the overloaded brain, because that is something that we hear a lot of, even around this time of year when things feel a little bit fresh. It's something that we see in our clients. It's things that we hear from our audiences, people that we meet, and that is that mental overload. And it's kind of hard to imagine. It's only January when we're recording this, and already we are hearing people are going back to work. Perhaps kids are going back to school. People have had this nice break and feel a little bit rested, but last year has taken its toll and people are exhausted. And I think this is quite common. We do hear this most years, don't we? Oh, last year was a really tough one. So I'm not sure if last year was tougher than any year before it, or maybe it was. And then, of course, the pressure builds up at Christmas time. We're around family, perhaps more than we usually are. Got to find things to do with the kids in school holidays if you've got kids. There's a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of decisions to make, and just this noise or clutter around in your head becomes a thing. And so today's question comes up all the time. Why can't I stop overthinking even when I know I'm doing it?
Yes, and I think it has become just a fact of life, actually, Beck, that each year seems to just get that added layer of anxiety for people,
Mm,
and which leads to this overloaded brain that we're talking about. But
yeah.
let's begin by just saying this very clearly. Overthinking is not who you are. It's not a flaw and it's not a personality trait. It's actually something that we've learned. Now,
Mm,
I'm going to say that again.
mm,
It's actually something that we've learned from way back.
yeah.
And your brain has simply become very good at doing what it has practiced over and over and over again, which is analysing, scanning for risk, replaying the past, or trying to think about the future and avoid things in the future. So this is this constant chatter that's going on in our mind. And but what we always talk about, what Beck and I always talk about, is the very first step to making a change is to become aware
Mm.
of that this is actually what is happening. It's very important that we recognize this. And why is this? Well, we can't change what we don't know or what we don't acknowledge. But we also have to realize that just being aware of it is not going to stop this overthinking. It's the first step. But like anything to do with change, it requires some action on our part. So the thing to remember out of all of this is that it is a learned pattern. And what it requires is a pattern interrupt.
Yeah, that's right. I think a really important thing I picked up when you're talking there was we don't know what we don't know. You hear people say that a lot, and
Mm.
it's absolutely true, right? We don't know what we don't know, and that's perhaps why you're listening to this podcast is to educate yourself on some of these things that you might have an inkling of, but you're not fully aware of where this comes from. And so that's where that we can't change what we don't know. Now that you know about it, you're more able to make a different choice. And so, as you said, this learned pattern, and I think sometimes it's hard to accept that, isn't it? We think this is who I am who I am, or I was brought up a certain way, but everything that we do is a learned pattern. And like you said, this one requires well, like any pattern, if we want to change it, requires an interrupt. So, yeah, it's a way to kind of jolt us out of this, so to speak.
Mm.
So, let's look at why this happens. And the reason starts, I guess, our brains are, as I think you said this, our brains are really brilliant at remembering, but they're especially brilliant at remembering emotionally charged moments. If we asked anybody here what they did last Tuesday, for example, they'd probably have to really put their thinking hats on and go, oh, I don't know, it was, pretty much like every other day. Um, and wouldn't be able to name immediately what they did, perhaps without looking at a calendar.
Mm.
But if you ask someone what one of the hardest moments of their life was, or when something happened in their life, they're often able to recall that day or that time with crystal clear detail. It's quite uncanny, really, the details we can remember when there's emotion around it. And that's not accidental. Strong emotion tells the brain this matters. Store it carefully. Put it in a really special place. And when we haven't been taught how to process those experiences, which majority of us haven't been, that's not placing blame anywhere. It's just simply we don't know what we don't know. But when we haven't been taught how to process those experiences, the brain keeps reopening that file, if you like. It's like having the filing cabinet. We store all our important papers there. And when we need to go back to that particular paper, we open the filing cabinet and we pull it out. And so your brain does that automatically. So we could be excused for thinking that our brain is trying to torture us by always reminding us of these details of these not so nice experiences. But of course, it's not. Our brain is trying to protect us.
Yes, it's amazing the clarity that we can that we get when we do recall many usually not so nice things.
Yeah.
But the brain actually thinks it's helping us by virtually saying to us or that, like this is important, let's keep this close so it never happens again.
Mm.
Or even like when this happened last time, this was your response. So that's what you need to keep doing. So it creates loops. We have a thought, then we have a feeling, then we have a memory, which leads to a thought and a feeling and a memory, and on it goes. That's
Mm.
what overthinking is. That's that continual loop of thoughts, feelings, and memories.
That's right. And it's almost like that worst case scenario thing, isn't it? Like, let's think of the worst case scenario so we can be prepared. That's what our brain does.
Mm.
But I guess if we can consider the worst case scenario, we can also consider the best case scenario, which actually gives us a nicer thought, a
We
nicer
could do
feeling.
that.
So I really love this metaphor because it explains overthinking perfectly. So we talk about this like being on a bus. Imagine your mind is a bus. You're on the bus, but you're not actually driving. You're in the back seat and your brain is at the wheel. Okay, so your brain is in control of this bus while you, the person, are sitting at the back seat. So the bus is your thoughts. It's speeding along, it's taking turns here and there. You're not really quite sure where it's going because you're not driving, you're in the back. It's simply reacting to what it sees on the road. So maybe swerving, maybe going down a road that you had no intention of going down to get to the destination that you're planning to go. You're just hanging on in the back seat and you're hoping to arrive there in one piece. That's kind of what overthinking feels like for a lot of people. We're reacting instead of making a conscious choice along the way, bracing ourselves for impact, that worst case scenario, instead of steering the bus calmly, making a conscious choice of this is the destination I'm heading for, and this is the route that I'm going to take, and just calmly steering the bus. All right.
Yeah,
Now, the important part here is the goal isn't to stop the bus, it's to move yourself into the driver's seat, to take control of the wheel, and to steer it where you want to go, where you've made the conscious choice to get to.
yeah, I think that's a really good metaphor, Beck. And I think another way to look at it is like this, and it's something, it's an illustration that you and I often use in our work, but we refer to software because we're all familiar with this. Um, we all know that our computers, our phones, all have softwares that they run on, and this has to be updated quite frequently, as it turns out. But our brain is the same. It runs on programs which have been installed over the years, our beliefs, the reactions that we've had to things, our perceptions, and based on our experiences in life and the way we have responded to these events. But we also know, and anyone who has listened to our podcasts over the past year or so will also be aware that many of these programs have been installed as young children.
Mm,
And we've picked this up from conditioning, from the people around us, from our carers, and that was all fine at the time. It was helpful at the time, but the point is, now that we're older, it's quite possibly outdated now.
mm,
Think about running your current business or life, for example, on software that's 20 years old. Just
mm.
simply, it cannot be done today, can it?
No.
The world has changed and we've learned a lot, we've experienced a lot over the years. So naturally, um, everything about us has changed. So the things that we were taught as a child, many of those things are just not relevant anymore. But the point is that that old software is still in there. And
Mm,
unless we consciously update it, it will keep running in the background. It's like when you update your computer, you've got to uninstall the old software and install the new.
mm,
So that's why we can logically know that something is fine, but we can still be responding or reacting in a way that we don't understand why we're doing that. And
mm,
I'm sure all of us have done things or said things or felt things, and we've done it and we think, why on earth did I do that?
mm,
Well, that's a really good example of living in the present, but the old software is still running the show.
mm,
So we know what happens when we don't update our software on our phones or our computers. It can cause real headaches, glitches. We can get hacked. Things
mm,
can happen that we didn't mean to happen. And that's the same with us. If we don't update our internal software.
Yeah, a really good analogy, I think. And I think we've all had that moment with our phone or our computer, whether it's just a glitch or whether it runs really slow or whether we've been hacked. It's quite a traumatic experience for some of those. And, or even if your phone's not, I know even myself, if I'm not getting a response, the internet's not working because I've got an old program or something like that, I'm getting a little bit antsy. And so that's where that emotional reaction comes
Mm.
from. So it might sound like when we're talking about this, it might sound like we have no control over this, but that's not true. The talking about the mind before, kind of like a filing cabinet, and there's so many ways to think about it. You could think about it like a filing cabinet. You could think about it like a library. You might have heard us talk about that before. Every experience, no matter which way you want to think about it, every experience you've had is stored
Mm.
either as one of those files in the filing cabinet or as a book on the shelf. And when you're about to do something new, your brain sends out, let's call it the librarian of your mind, to go and grab that book off the shelf. And, sometimes she brings back the wrong book. She brings back the book that reinforces all of those things that you'd rather forget about yourself. Things like, oh, that time that I messed up and people judged me, or why this might go wrong, or that time I made a fool out of myself. Remember that? I mean, I just, as soon as I say that sentence, I remember a time that I made a fool of myself. And it was probably 25 years ago, but see how quick that librarian is. And the point here, like with, with the bus, we're not trying to stop the bus completely. Just like here, we're not trying to delete the books. We're not erasing memories. We're just helping to choose different ones. We want the librarian to choose a different one. So instead of going for that worst case scenario book, we want the librarian to go perhaps for the best case scenario book. We've all heard that saying, where focus goes, energy flows. So why would we focus on something that we don't want when we could focus on what we do want instead? So this is all about learning to choose differently. And I guess creating confidence or building confidence in being able to do that. And when we talk about confidence in this, it's not about pretending that fear doesn't exist. Change is scary. Doing something new invokes fear in most of us because it's unknown. But this is about understanding that you can feel fearful, but you can do it anyway. That saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's about choosing to say no to what your brain is telling you because logically you know that it may not be serving you well, and simply doing the thing anyway. Having courage to choose to say, yes, this feels scary. I've never done it before. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I'm going to give it a red hot go because we
Mm.
know that it actually could be a really good thing.
All true. So let's just try and pull this all together
Mm.
for us and say, why does this all matter? Couldn't we just keep living our lives and just put up with this? Well, when overthinking becomes chronic, it doesn't just affect our mood. We know how it makes us feel. People are feeling overwhelmed with all of this. It also impacts our sleep because our mind just won't shut down at night.
Mm.
It affects our decision making because we can't get clear in our head what we want to do or what we don't want to do. It affects our emotional regulation, the stress responses in our body, and over time, it just kind of narrows your whole world. It puts
Mm.
barriers around your world. Uh, it could even have the effect that you stop trusting yourself. You don't know whose voice to listen to, and you delay action. You stop trying new things. It's almost like you build a bubble around yourself. And
Mm.
you just might be thinking, yes, I've got a lot going on, but you think, is this it? Am I always going to be living like this?
Mm.
It might even be that you have a good life, but you know that there could be more, or you want more, or that you know you're capable of more. But over time, it all just seems too hard, and you get to the point where you say, this will do, this is good enough, or I don't think I deserve anything more than this. Or as Beck was talking about, fear just stops you from just taking even the smallest step forward.
Mm. And I guess just to say here, if that's where you are and that's where you want to be, that's okay. You can stay there. This is we want to provide an alternative. We're all about helping people think differently, to make different choices, uh, to find um, that courage, that to live that potential, those capabilities. We want more. We're always looking to evolve and improve ourselves. So that's why we share this information with you. So it's not to say that there's anything wrong with the other way. If that's what you want, then by all means, we want to help people who want more for their life, who want to continually grow throughout their life. So if you're listening here and thinking, okay, this makes sense, but what do I actually do? So, this is the part where we want to give you something that you can actually start to make a difference. So, first, it's about noticing the pattern. So, we talked about how this is a learned pattern of behavior. So, number one, notice the pattern. Acknowledge to yourself that this is happening, right? Now you know it's happening. There's no blame toward anyone, there's no shame around this. It's simply about awareness. You're not trying to change it yet or fix it, if you like. You're simply seeing the pattern. Number two, name this as a habit, right? So, as you were saying earlier, this is not about identity. Overthinking is not who you are, it's not a character trait. I hear this all the time. Oh, Beck, I'm an overthinker. No, you are someone who has practiced overthinking. You've become really good at it. And anything that's been practiced can be changed or lost. Think about learning a language, right? If anybody's learned a language before, when you use it constantly, you become fluent. But even if you were fluent in it, if you haven't used it for years, it's not second nature anymore, is it? You really have to think about it. All right. So, number two is name it as a habit, not your identity. And number three, this is about shifting from reacting to choosing. So rather than reacting, this is a choice. That this is a moment where you, when it's actually happening, where you realize that you're analyzing again, you're thinking again, you're going around in circles, and give yourself time and the space to acknowledge this. So you stop, you make a decision, do it or don't do it. There's no wrong choice here, but this is about owning it, right? Either I'm choosing to try this new thing, whatever the outcome is, I'll deal with it, or I'm choosing to let fear make the decision for me. Now, that might sound harsh. I get that. But like I was saying before, if you're listening to the brain changes, it's because you want something to change. And nothing changes unless behavior changes, unless we take action.
So true. So let's just recap and just go over quickly what we've talked about
Mm.
today. Overthinking is fear, but it's masquerading as logic. Remember that. And if your mind keeps you so busy, then you don't have time to decide. So we talked about awareness. Awareness lets us see the pattern. As Beck said, we're not trying to fix it yet. We're just being aware of it. And then our behavior is what interrupts it or brings it up and lets us look at it. and change it. And we know that the real cost of overthinking isn't getting something wrong. It's about the time you lose waiting to feel ready. So, with everything we do, there are consequences, both good and bad. There's a cost to everything. So, we need to think of what this is costing us, this overthinking. So, we shouldn't be afraid of getting something wrong, but we should be more concerned with interrupting this process with behaviours that are going to be far more productive.
That's right. And something you just said there about the time that you lose waiting to feel ready. We rarely feel ready.
Mm,
There's always, oh, hang on, I'll just give me one more minute or one more day or one more year until I'm ready. The truth of the matter is that we'll never be ready. And when we actually just take the action, when we do the thing, that's how we build confidence. So a lot of this comes back to courage, which I guess is the opposite to fear, really, isn't it? So if you're listening to this now, early in the year, and you're thinking, well, I started with really good intentions, Beck, but I've already drifted away from that, which is quite common. There's even a day named after, I think it was January 17th. It's known as Quitter's Day.
it's a
Uh,
really,
it's a real thing, right? You're in good company with that. At least 80%, and I think the number is actually more like 90%. At least 80 or 90% of people have dropped their new year, new me intentions already,
mm,
right? By mid-January. So if that's what you're thinking, this is exactly why I created the New Year Reset. So this is not about setting resolutions. It's not about motivating you. This is about taking a step back to reflect on the year that was and deciding what it is that you want to leave behind in that year in 2025 and what you actually want to take with you. So, again, this is about becoming aware, it's about making a conscious choice and then resetting your direction and setting intentions that you can actually follow through on for 2026. So there's no big ones like, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, or this is my year to get healthy, and then stopping at that. We want to be more specific and we want to be realistic about it as well. But in order to do that, we've got to leave things from the past behind. These old stories, these old patterns, we need to interrupt them. So if you're sitting here thinking, yeah, I absolutely need this, you want to stop overthinking, you want to start making conscious choices instead, you can book your New Year reset still on our website, and the link will be in the notes for you. And if now is not the moment for you, that's okay too. Just notice what you choose and what it costs you. So thank you for joining us again here for the first episode in 2026 of the Brain Changers podcast. We will see you next time. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. Bye for now.
bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Brain Changers. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Our mission is to reach as many people as possible to help them revolutionize the way they think so they can change their brain and create profound transformation. Please help us broaden our reach by sharing this episode with someone you know will benefit. And remember to tag us on socials at Moonbeam Monday and leave a review. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. We'll catch you next time for another episode of The Brain Changers.